This is a lecture from Open Tuition.
Welcome to the Open Tuition course on ACCA Strategic Business Reporting. My name is Steve, and you'll see myself and my colleague Chris around the website with the recorded lectures. In this presentation, I'll explain the syllabus and the exam, what we offer and what else you're going to need to think about in order to get through this ACCA exam. First of all, we'll just have a look at the syllabus, which sits under a series of broad headings. When we look at these headings at first, they look very, very daunting, but we'll talk a little bit about what each of these means. Under syllabus area A, ethics, there you are, that's the first one there. Very similar to the sorts of skills that you would have used in audit and assurance, is a chance to explore the ethical aspects of the way in which accounts are prepared. Sometimes the finance director may break the rules deliberately or accidentally, and we are then required to comment on that in the context of the ACCA Code of Ethics. Now, whether you did a relevant degree or the ACCA exam in audit and assurance, it doesn't matter. Both will have given you an excellent grounding in ethics, so that will not cause you a lot of problem. The second one, again, is about the accounting framework. Remember that under international accounting standards, then there is a framework and about 40 accounting standards. Compare that to somewhere like the USA, where the framework is less important, but they probably have something like 200 accounting standards. So we're quite lucky, but you need to make sure you know the IASB framework, especially the characteristics of financial information, like relevance and so on. And also, again, things like the definition of asset liability and the recognition rules. All of these explained in the subsequent lectures, but that won't take you very long either. Section C is reporting the financial performance of a range of entities. They could be in the private sector profit making or not profit making. That doesn't make a big difference, but this is where most of your work again would be looking at, because what you're doing then is explaining to directors of companies, for example, how they should account for anything as set out in the accounting standards. Almost all of the standards are in the syllabus, so this is where most of your work will come. You learned about half of them when you did financial reporting. They are still examinable, but then in strategic business reporting, you'll learn the other half. New topics include things like a more detailed knowledge of financial instruments, share-based pay, and pensions. Syllabus area D is group accounts. Some of you probably enjoy group accounts and will have learned a technique for putting together a set of accounts for group companies. Those sorts of techniques still apply, but what you're going to find out in this exam is that your calculator is almost redundant. You will be doing calculations, but not many. So you'll use a spreadsheet to put together or to adjust a set of group accounts, but it's mainly, this exam is about explaining what's happening when you make certain adjustments. So it's largely an exercise where you explain what is happening rather than do masses of calculations. Syllabus area E, interpretation. Again, in financial reporting, you met ratio analysis, but this is taking things further and particularly looking at some of the more unusual performance measures that companies come up with. So things like earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization. So unusual measures. It's also thinking about the way in which companies present financial information. They sometimes present the true profit with some kind of other profit, which may or may not be properly explained. So an element of cynicism or skepticism comes in when we think about interpretation. Syllabus area F is being aware of current issues, but I would stress that's not a very big area of the syllabus. So, yes, the syllabus will set out certain current issues that you should be aware of, but they're not going to surprise us on this area. So you don't have to do masses of extra reading or anything like that. We just have to read the bits that are in the syllabus, the related articles the examiner has written, and then we may or may not be tested on that for a few marks in the exam. Finally, because you do the exam online, you have to demonstrate your technology skills. Well, that's nothing at all really. It's just the fact that you can plug your numbers into an Excel spreadsheet. You're able to type your answer into something like a Word spreadsheet. So that in its own is something that you could instinctively do anyway. In summary then, most of your effort will probably be towards syllabus area C, learning the accounting standards. People sometimes over-focus on groups, but it's mainly knowing the accounting standards. The only thing that you do not need to know are the standard numbers. So no one is impressed if you know that something is in IAS 19. We're not interested. What we're interested though is that you actually know the rules of that standard and that we can apply them to a given situation. There's the syllabus. In the next slide, I've tried to illustrate what a typical exam would look like. There's much more guidance on the ACCA website. So this isn't quite every exam, but it's a typical exam. So the question mark allocation is right. It will be the same every time. But in fact, the content will vary very slightly, especially in section B. All questions are compulsory. Question 1 is group accounts with accounting standards. And for part of that question, perhaps 10 or 12 marks, you'll be plugging some numbers into a spreadsheet. They will prepare a set of group accounts, but there will be some errors and we will need to correct them. You will find spreadsheet exercises to help you prepare on the ACCA practice platform and also on our website at Open Tuition. Question 2, ethics and accounting standards. We mentioned ethics before. So the finance director or someone or the chief executive may have done something inappropriate and we're required to explain what the correct rule is under accounting standards and then explain which principles, for example, have been breached. Principles like objectivity, professional competence and due care. In section 3, apart from testing accounting standards, question 3, they might test you on interpretation. So they might, for example, give you a note from a set of company accounts on tax and ask you to explain it in ordinary language to ordinary directors. They might ask us to comment on certain performance measures selected by a company. They might ask us to assess the effect of a change on policy on things like margin and return on capital employed. In question 4, they may examine a current issue. How do you account for bitcoins, for example? They might ask us about the framework. But what you'll notice in all of these questions is that every question will always test accounting standards, IFRS. And people sometimes ask me, well, which standard will come up this time? The answer is most of them, because they're in every single question, just for a few marks, so we need to know the basics of them all. There's the exam. The ACCA website has got wonderful resources, so lots of guidance from the examining team, past exam papers that you can access through the practice platform, technical articles written by the examiner which explain what the examining team are actually looking for, and all sorts of other guidance. Use it as much as you possibly can because it's free. Our website, again, has got our course notes. You'll notice that our course notes are not as long as the study text written by some of the tuition organisations. Do they give you enough knowledge to pass? Yes. Do they give you enough knowledge to get 100%? Possibly not. But as no one has ever scored 100% in this exam, ever, that doesn't really matter, does it? So I would recommend you use our course notes alongside our tuition videos to sort out your basic knowledge. So use those first. You'll also find that we've prepared revision videos where we've looked at the last few exam sittings, and you can look again at those past exams again on the ACCA website. Look at our commentary on those, and just assess then. It will help you to think about how to pass. You also have free use of the Ask the Tutor forum. Now, that gives you a chance to put questions to me or one of my colleagues if you're not sure about a technical point. Sometimes people use this to ask me how to do their university essay. I'm afraid I don't do that. But if you've got questions about our course notes, I'm very happy to answer them. There's also a series of flashcards, and what the flashcards do is test the basic knowledge of those accounting standards. The one thing that you must buy, though, is an up-to-date exam or revision kit. There are details about how to get it on our website from one of the very large tuition providers, and it's very important that you have the up-to-date one. So can you use last year's? No, you mustn't, because everything is changing all the time in this exam. The format of the questions, the content of the syllabus, the content of the standards. Again, sometimes students seem to acquire PDFs of very old exams, and it's completely pointless. They won't help you at all. Up-to-date exam or revision kit, you do need that, but the cost is not prohibitive. Keys to success: don't worry about learning every detail, but know the basics well. So whether it's derivatives, hedge accounting, pensions, share-based pay, impairment, whatever, the point is, could you summarise the 6 key points? If you could summarise the 6 key points, give or take, you're absolutely fine. Question practice. Well, there are 2 ways to practice questions. One is you do the question and you look at the answer and you will pass. The other is you read the question, read the answer, and hope you will be able to produce the answer when you won't pass. So have a go at the question first. It doesn't matter, as you know, about actually messing it up when you're practicing. And then, of course, you can look at the answer to try and get some more points. On behalf of all the team at Open Tuition, I wish you good luck with the exam and hope you enjoy the course. Thank you.